Watch Jordan's video?
Of course I did. Of course I did.
He's a character, isn't he?
Oh, I loved everything about it. Um, so today, Michelle and I are going to have a conversation about being intuitive, speaking to spirits, different things like that. But before we get started, Michelle, I want to have you give a brief synopsis of what your abilities are before we really dig in.
Okay. Hi, my name is Michelle. I am a spirit medium. What that means is that I am the voice for those who cannot be heard on this side. So that's what I do.
Yeah. And I love that. And that excites me every time you say that. I just think it's so beautiful and amazing because it's something that for the longest time, I always had to whisper in secret to people. Like it wasn't something you could have a normal conversation about, right?
Yeah.
And it always broke my heart that something so beautiful had to be on the down low. So it's very exciting to be having a conversation with you about what all that means. I have a question for you about soul contracts. You and I have kind of discussed this before. For people that are listening, can you explain what your understanding is of what a soul contract is?
Sure. Of course, all the information that I give you is through my own experiences and what I have studied and learned through the years of doing this. So I just want to put that out there for everybody because not every medium, clairvoyant, psychic, gets the information the same way. We all receive differently. That being said, my understanding to soul contracts is that before we are born on this earth, we have already made agreements on the other side with our soul families. So, we have contracts with everybody that is in our circle here on this earth. Everybody has a purpose and a meaning and a season and a reason. So that's what our soul contracts are, to fulfill what was meant for us to fulfill in a past life situation. So we sign these contracts. We have this understanding, like you and I have a contract. We probably don't understand what that contract is as of yet, but as we work through our new social media thing, I think that we're going to understand what our contract was or is.
Yes, which is so exciting. And while we're saying that, because Michelle and I are new to putting these segments together, we want to remind people to please like and subscribe. We have found that's going to be useful so we can continue to get information out to everybody. So if you're enjoying this information, please like and subscribe so we can continue sharing with you. Along the same lines of the soul contract, Michelle, I feel like in my life, because again, it's my personal experience, I've definitely had people, come across my path. I'm like, why, why this person has hurt me or this person has been bad for me. So can we dig in a little bit to that about, it makes sense to me that the soul contract is we've had an agreement. We've got to work some things out. For people that are learning really the levels of a soul contract, could you, from your experience, explain what you've learned about people that are so-called bad or so-called that we struggle with, what that really means?
Sure. Now everything is for your purpose. Mm-hmm. Okay. So these contracts are for your soul purpose. So what your purpose is here, what are you fulfilling in this lifetime? What is your purpose of fulfillment? So let's just say, let's just use the word narcissist, okay? And I don't want to, because everybody's jumping on the bandwagon of a narcissist kind of thing as of late. But, a narcissist, there's a spectrum. There's a spectrum of narcissism. We all have narcissism. Mm-hmm. If we didn't, we wouldn't survive, right. But let's just use that as an example. So let's say you have a highly narcissistic energy in your environment.
Okay.
That energy is there to show you or reveal something about yourself so that you can work on those things to help elevate your vibration. Now, how do I explain this? If you're energy isn't strong to battle a narcissist, it can end up pulling you down to their level, so to speak. So the contract, so a soul contract, let's say with a negative vibration in your vicinity, it's revealing something about yourself. How do you manage, or how do you deal with that kind of energy? You rise above it, you know. So you're elevating yourself by being around negative people. Yes. Or you could go the other way. So it depends on, you know, what your purpose is. If you want to fulfill a higher purpose, then you will vibrate at a higher level and recognize that relationship and walk away with it. Bless it, thank it, and walk away from it.
Yeah.
So does that make sense, Melinda?
It does. And it's so beautiful too, because it's so much more simple than what I think we make it here in this world, right? Like we humans have a tendency to complain and go, why, and not own our circle, right? And not own. Right. I've done that for many years, where I had some really heavy personalities around me, and I really played a victim for a very long time of like, why me? Why? And I cried a lot, and I didn't take any power over anything that was happening. So it makes a lot of sense to me.
Right.
What you're saying.
A lot of, I think, well, I know the biggest thing that I learned through this is that there is no victim or villain in life, you know, and I've learned that you can play a victim and you can play the villain, but there really is no victim and villain.
Yes.
So it's just a mentality,
you
know, that we've grown up with. Somebody hurts you, they're the villain, and you're the victim. And, you know, I don't believe that to be true.
Right. And in your capacity to be able to communicate with people on the other side, have you, with the people that you've, you know, read for, or, you know, shared from the other side, have you seen that process where people have learned lessons when someone from the other side is trying to explain, you know, what this imbalance is really all about?
Absolutely. Absolutely. 100%. And again, free will. Yes. So when spirit gives my client information about how to go about change, not to be on the receiving end of victimhood or villainhood, or however you want to do it, you know, spirit gives the information to rise above it, gives you a back channel, so to speak, to understand what that relationship is. But it's all, you know, up to us as humans to take that information and use it, or not to use it. And that's where I think the victim mentality comes in, is when you sit back and go, I can't do this, you know, why me? It's always, everything happens to me. And, you know, the more that you say that, I think that people don't understand, unconsciously, they're attracting those things into their lives by announcing the lack, or, you know, the victimhood, you know. So if you're playing a victim, you will always be victimized.
Yes.
And if you're playing the villain, you will always be the villain, you know. So it's just a matter of, what do you choose to be?
Yes. You know? And that is so helpful. You know, I love what you say about free will. That's so helpful, because I feel like as humans, or at least here in the United States, because that's the only place I've lived, we have this sense of we don't have control, right? That I've had people say, well, I don't want to talk to someone that's intuitive because they're going to lead me down a path that I don't want to know.
Right.
Which I find fascinating, because why? It's like learning. Why wouldn't you want all the knowledge? No one's going to force you once you talk to an intuitive, right? And
that's right.
And maybe that's a misunderstanding too, Michelle, with everything we're talking about today with free will and with soul contracts, is that in our world here in the United States, we've been taught to a certain degree that other people are in charge of us, and we do what these people say, and everything will be okay. And from what you've learned talking to spirits on the other side, what's your understanding of that, of the world that we live in right now, where, well, these are the laws, these are the rules, you do this and be a good little citizen, and you'll be fine.
Mhm. Well, we have, of course, we have laws for structure,
Yeah.
right?
Mhm.
Just as we have laws on this physical earth, we have universal law.
Yes.
And the universal law is what matters.
Yes.
You know, because when you go against the universal law, that's when shit starts to happen.
Thank you.
And not good shit.
Yes.
So, you know, it's all about, you know, you reap what you sow. It is so true. You know, if you're a good person and you do good things for people just out of pure goodness and with no motive or intention other than being kind and loving, you are going to receive that back.
Yes.
And I feel, you know, and let's just, you know, the laws and the structure here, I guess if you do what you're supposed to do, you know, then you kind of, it's smooth sailing. But when you go against the system, when it doesn't feel right to you,
right,
I think prayer is what helps.
Yes. Well,
The collective.
Yeah,
you know,
let's talk about prayer too, because I do believe that gets confused into religion and versus spirituality. So let's talk about some universal laws that you've learned, you know, through your practice, so people can have a better understanding. I think that gets very muddled, right? Religion, spirituality.
Right. Well, I feel that religion is more of a dogma. It's more of rules and regulations, where spirituality is about more about living.
Yes.
A peaceful life, you know. So I that's the difference for me. Again, Melinda, I got off track again. So what was your question?
No, that's okay. It's about, the question that I had was, because I've struggled with this too. I've had bad experiences in churches because of the people, not because this is spirituality, because of the humans connected with it. So I've definitely had my struggles with prayer or God, because I put a wall up because I felt like it was representing the badness of the people as opposed to like the universal law. So really, I want to talk about, what is universal law? What does that mean? So people can understand prayer doesn't mean church, doesn't mean dogma, doesn't mean a building, doesn't mean you behave a certain way in front of certain people. It really is.
It's within.
What's in here.
It's you and it's you having the conversation with the omnipotent being, or God, or however you want to, or whoever you want to put that name on.
Right.
But prayer is, it's a recognition of something that is deep within your soul that you're putting out into the universe and asking for guidance. And I do want to say this, Melinda, a lot of people get caught up in prayer, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Like, let's just use an example. And I've learned this, and I have to remind myself all the time. You know, when you say a mantra, you know, which for me, that is prayer. Mantras are prayer. You know, it's a repetitive vibration that you're putting out to the universe, right?
Yeah.
So prayer and mantras are kind of similar. But I feel that people get so caught up on prayer that they don't understand that if you keep asking for the same thing over and over and over, that you're actually sending out to the universe that you don't believe that it's actually coming.
Thank you.
So you ask once or twice, you know, and then you start to give thanks for what you can't see.
That's huge.
So you offer up what your desires are, right?
Yes.
And then you give thanks.
Yes.
For it being received or delivered. And you can't have it in your mind how it's going to come.
Yes.
Because it never comes that way.
Yes.
It really doesn't. You know, it just comes out of nowhere, and you're
Yes.
wow, you know?
Yes.
So I feel that prayer is very important. Speaking your mantras is very important, but also giving gratitude and thanks before you receive is huge.
Yes. Yes. Thank you for saying that. I've definitely had that conversation with people in my life saying, you just have to put it out there. And their question was, but how? I'm like, that's not your problem. You don't have to worry about that part.
That's right.
Let that go. And the being grateful, wow. I've learned so much. The moment I recognized I needed to just remain grateful, how much my world exploded, because I think we spend a lot of time like worrying, or I want, or I need, or trying to figure out how things are going to go. And I think that that's a confusion with like the soul contracts and the free will of like thinking we must control things.
Mm-hmm.
What have you learned from Spirit about how much control we have?
Okay, so that is a huge human issue.
Yeah.
Control, everybody wants to control their
Yes.
life, right?
Yes.
Everybody wants to have some sort of control, because you feel a sense of stability when you think that you have control. But I'm going to tell you that you have absolutely no control.
Nope.
No control. To an extent. I'm not saying that, you know, you're floundering in this life, but you know, you really, the more that you butt against what the universe is trying to deliver to you, or the direction that the universe is trying to direct you, the more that you go against that and try to go the other way, you're just going to keep hitting obstacles.
Yeah.
And then you know that you're not in the flow of what the universe has for you. And that's when all the trouble starts, and it's uncomfortable, and, you know, then the lack mentality sets in. So it kind of, you start going down that slippery slope of negativity when you fight for control.
Yes. And I think, you know, who can't relate to that, right? Like, I think a real quick example is I thought I wanted a particular job and I wanted it so bad. And when I didn't get it, devastated, and I crawled back into myself, and I cried and I yelled at God, and I was very angry because I thought this was the job that I needed for finances, for healthcare, like I had decided, right? So after a few days of that, once I let it go and I started just going, okay, what am I here for? What am I doing? When I look back on my life, when this happened to me 10 years ago, the life I have now, I would have
never had it. I know.
And it's so beautiful and magical. And I think as humans, that's something we really need to recognize is, yes, of course we have a certain amount of control. However, don't get so caught in what you think you must have, because if all the signals are telling you, every signal was telling me, no, I didn't even like that job. I didn't even like that job, but it had money and it had security.
Right.
So I was clinging to it. So just to give a quick example, so people that are listening can understand, like, the minute you let go and start paying attention, if you start getting all those roadblocks, pay attention to those roadblocks. They're not going away.
They'll go the other way.
You'll just keep getting hit. You'll keep getting hit, and you'll fight harder and harder. And, you know, I appreciate the fact that you can explain it in such a beautiful way because of your connection to the other side. I would imagine the information you get is probably just so clear, right? And I feel like here on this side with humans, we really like to tangle things up.
Yes, we do. We make things very difficult.
Yeah.
And on that, you know, I want you to understand that doing what I do, it amplifies, if I go against the system, if I go against what I intuitively I know, it is a hell of a lot worse for me than, you know, somebody else that isn't as intuitive, because you know that you know that you know.
Yes.
And, you know, the universe is going, excuse me, you know better than that. So I'm going to give you a good slap to wake you up. I do want to talk as far as control, I think that I was tested. And when I say tested, is testing myself.
Yes.
with control, I had with my oldest son, Jay, I had a hard time letting go. He struggled with addiction, alcohol and drugs, super, super intelligent young man. I mean,
Right.
he had it all going for him.
Yeah.
And he trained athletes. I mean, he was,
Wow.
but he had his struggles, and as a mom, you want to dive in and fix it. You want to control it and fix it and dive in. And I did everything in my power because I had to be able to sleep at night.
Yes.
As a mom, you want to do everything that you possibly can for your child. But then again, are you crossing the line of controlling their life or trying to control their life or their decisions, their journey?
Yes.
So it got really bad towards the end with Jay, and I was praying. I was on my knees, and I was praying, and I was crying, and I'm like, what more is there that I need to do to get him straight, to help this kid,
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, with as loud could be in my head, I heard, who the hell do you think you are that you're the one that's going to change your son?
Yeah.
And that moment I just said, okay, I give it to you. I can't do it anymore,
Yes.
So that's what I'm saying, to give up that control of, especially being moms, or dads, you just don't want your children to fail or fall or hurt or, struggle.
Right.
And you're automatically trying to get in there to control the situation. And I can tell you that every time that I enabled Jay, every time that I picked Jay up or gave him $20 for this, or, I made it worse.
Understood. Yeah.
I was delaying the inevitable.
Yes. Yes. And that's such a beautiful thing to share, Michelle, because again, my beliefs and my experiences have been, the more you try to dip into other people's life, the less time you spend on your own, and everything becomes harder.
Yeah.
And what you said earlier about, because you are intuitive, how the lessons are so much harder because you are aware. I have definitely learned on my path, the more aware I become, the more responsibility I'm given. And then the harder the lessons are, the bigger the lessons are. And I've had to have those conversations of like, I know more is expected of me.
That's right.
And
that is truth.
It's a privilege, and it's also a lot.
It is. It sure is.
It's a lot. So for people listening and listening to your story about Jay, because certainly we've got moms listening, we've got people that love other people. What have you learned from Spirit? I mean, we heard you say you can't enable, you've got to let people be who they are. Is there anything else you've learned from Spirit that you want to share in that particular experience for people that are not intuitive, that just feel very lost? Like, how can you guide them so they can find their way in a situation like that?
I would say that if you truly want to change your life, if you truly want to change your life, help will appear in the most miraculous way. And it is the truth, because every time Jay was ready to heal himself, there was always help there to pull him in, and he knew that, he knew that if he binged for a week, that, he was a master of, I don't want to say manipulating, but
sure,
addicts are manipulators.
Sure.
But he knew that if he drank for a week, that, he could detox and knew how to do it. And, but eventually it catches up to you, because you're going against universal law.
Yes.
So it's going to come back, you can't keep constantly abuse your body that way and not expect
Right.
a very negative thing to happen to you,
Right.
I feel that with Jay, my biggest lesson was to allow people to be who they are. You
That's
love
huge.
them no matter what,
Yeah.
but you don't have to engage in the craziness.
Yes.
Even if it is your child,
Yes.
even if it is your child, and to sit back and watch that is very difficult, but knowing that God or goddess, whoever you want to claim that, has their hand on that person, and
Yes.
I feel that if you are ready for that change, if you are ready to get sober, walk the straight and narrow, if you're ready for that, the universe will drop in front of you the way to achieve that. So it be a new person comes into your life, you hear a song on the radio, an advertisement, you see something online, all you have to do is say, I'm ready, I'm open, I'm willing, and there you go.
And that's a beautiful way to wrap this. I know we're trying to keep to 30 minutes, so it'll
Yes.
be easier for people. That's a beautiful way to wrap it because we started talking about control and universal law. And so if I'm hearing you correctly, let me know when you're ready. It's always there. You just have to be open to it. And I think as humans, we want what we want. Right.
Yes.
So maybe
yes.
we're not ready for that song. Like we'll hear the song and go, well, that's crazy. Or, someone will mention something to you. You've been ruminating in your head. You're like that. So remind us again that it could be from anything, anywhere. Correct. We have to be
correct. You just have to be open to receive. And that is the message. As long as you're open to receive, then the universe is going to give it to you. It may not be what you expected or how you expected it, but know that if the universe is handing it to you, then that is the most positive thing that could happen to you in your life.
That is a beautiful way to wrap this. I think that really takes a lot of pressure off too about feeling like you're a victim and feeling like you don't have any say so in your life when you really do. It's as simple as that. Ask.
Yes, it is. It is simple as that. You do have a say.
That's so beautiful. All right, we're gonna wrap this session. Again, we would really like for you to like and subscribe so you can follow. We're going to continue on with Michelle. She teaches many lessons that she's learned from the other side and about paying attention, how to heal yourself, how to listen, how to grow, how to be better. And if you're interested in any of those things, like and subscribe.
Yes. Hit that thumbs up.
Hit that thumbs up. All right. So I'm still fairly new at this. I want to make sure that I know. Okay. And we're going to say thank you for now, and we will see everybody in the next session.
Bye.
Bye.